So, yeah, welcome onto this Creative Talks show, Karen. It is really a pleasure to inviting you here on, ArtSmiley Creative Talk show. The main purpose of this show has been, to introduce a new artists, to this region like yourself. We are coming, hailing from USA to here. So it's always, pleasure for the community to know, what is the journey of the artist and how they grow up and explore a bit more, and so that there is the motivation and learning for all of them. And also, as ArtSmiley moving into NFT world, I know it will be very interesting, to learn more about the NFTs, through you, because you're already an existing NFT artist. You're selling your art pieces through one of these NFT platforms. So I'm going to touch base, whole around probably in the next 30 minutes. Starting your artist journey to till today, what are your achievements, how you're moved in this space, and what are you looking at ahead as well. So let's start welcoming Karen, and she's an artist based out from USA. And Karen, can you please tell our audience a bit more about you? Actually, how do you started into art, yourself as an artist, and what motivated you come into here?
Well, first, I just want to say welcome, and I'm so happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me on. I was born and raised in New York, and at an early age, I think it was like an art teacher in elementary school told my parents, that she's got some talent and you should foster it.
It's 9:30.
They had a show at the local city hall, and my work was chosen to be in it when I was a little child. And so my parents started giving me painting lessons and sculpture lessons, and art became my favorite class in school. And then I went on to Syracuse University, where I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. And while I was there, and I think like most children, you start off because you're good at drawing. I think that's the first thing kids pick up is a pencil, and that you can kind of draw something that really looks like something recognizable. But you have no concept of art history or about art having a message until you kind of get to college. And that kind of opens up the thinking process, and also more artistic processes in general with the mediums and the making. So I took a photography class as an elective, and then that took a whole direction. And I did a semester abroad at St. Martin's School of Art in London, and started doing these large-scale photograms where it's a cameraless photography technique, and I stage people on photo paper on the floor and create scenes. And then I realized I could start telling stories with the artwork. So that was when that first happened. And then coming out of college, I made some connections with other art students, and they had shows, and they connected me to the galleries, and I started showing around in New York. I was doing two different bodies of work, which I'm kind of still doing two different bodies of work now, because I feel like you get really intense in something, and then you kind of need to break into so this kind of work behind me is what I call like my more abstract, colorful, kind of like universal work that everyone can relate to. My other black and white stuff is much more narrative, storytelling, and more deep. People have a lot of questions about or interpret what it's about. This is not open to so much interpretation. It's more enjoyment.
So, I mean, that takes me to ask you another question, like what actually, I know you have doing two different things, one for happiness or joy, you see that kind of work, and storytelling. What is that influencing factors you take it, like, is it a political or more social or economical? What kind of, as points you take into your art when you're doing something creative?
So it kind of depends on what's happening in my life at the time. And it's interesting when I look at my work over the arc of my life, like when I was single and young and, coming out of college, my work was really a lot about music. That was really what I was into. A lot of the work was influenced by lyrics of songs, hanging out with friends, partying, that type of thing. As I got married and moved into a community, my work became more a statement about family life, motherhood, raising children, and maybe more women's issues. And then if something is happening in current events that I feel like I have a reaction to, I would make a statement about that.
Okay. So it's almost like what you've been going through in that period of life and that you're bringing into your limelight. I mean,
Yeah, like
that's
surroundings. Yeah.
absolutely, like many of the artists, actually, they were influenced by one of these factors, either nature or the surroundings. It's always what's happening, political or social, somebody interested. They can always, and that's where art is a very, medium, actually. It can express any kind of things. And I really enjoy it. And that's mostly almost all the people I keep hearing, that's what it influences. That coming to another one also, who is your biggest influencers? While in artwork you have somebody as a mentor, or or an artist you admire and you motivate. Who is that kind of person you in your life?
Well, so I have some artists that I've been influenced just through going to museums, like Frank Stella. Love his use of color and shape. Mondrian, also his use of very graphic, linear, and primary colors. And then I've gotten more influenced by some female artists like Cindy Sherman, making herself the subject and more narrative storytelling. So it's a combination of technique from some people and style from some other, people. That's Barbara Kruger, her use of a big message, text.
So how do you look in the art world? I mean, it's as it is wider as it is, and also we say that it's very much local and regional. Art is always been looked in different ways. But how do you navigate yourself, in these spaces, and how do you progress in your career as an artist?
So it's interesting. I think over COVID, a lot of things changed because everything moved online. And beforehand, it was very localized. You could just go to the galleries in your area, and that's what you exposed to, or museums in your area. Now that everything's shows are online, I've been much more exposed to universal work. And I go to a lot of galleries online. I get wind of them through social media, or I'm on email lists, and I'm looking at places like China. A lot of work is coming out of, like Dubai. A lot of work is coming out of, and also I think being in these groups on Clubhouse, this app Clubhouse, there's people from everywhere, Korea, and everyone's talking. It's really a melting pot, so much so that they have interpreters, because a lot of people don't speak English, and we're looking at their work and they're explaining it, and somebody's interpreting, and you're opened up to this whole universe of works from such a diverse population. It's really a beautiful thing.
And that's wonderful now. And as you said, rightly said, with the pandemic, one way it is affected the traditional art industry, but it opened the doors for a lot of people to access online and reaching out to the people. I mean, it's absolutely a stunning thing. Or I would say it's a great development, especially because you able to see now from any part of the world, any region, it doesn't really matter. People can showcase their work and reach out to the global audience. It's actually, I would still think very positive this direction. And NFTs also open completely wider doors for the artists who want to come in the space and expose themselves and reach out to this. As we're already started talking about NFTs, tell me what is NFTs for the people who are listening, and a lot of the artists, they're still very unfamiliar with the space. So I'm going to ask you on basic things. What is NFTs, and how they will be used, and what is the relation with art, and what that gives the value to the investor? So almost I asked 3 questions in that, but you can break it down and explain a bit.
Okay, trying to break it down. So NFT stands for non-fungible token, if I'm saying it correctly, which basically is like a digital stamp of ownership of that. It doesn't even have to be a piece of artwork, but it's basically a JPEG or a movie file that's uploaded to a platform, and it's time stamped of when it was minted onto the blockchain. So the work is purchased in cryptocurrency and it's minted in cryptocurrency. Right now, I'm seeing mostly Ethereum is the big cryptocurrency. There's also work being minted in other currencies. Matic is a one, and Tezos, and a few others. So what's happening is a lot of great things for the artist. First of all, you're getting your work in front of, it's a new platform. So there are websites like OpenSea where it explains all about what NFTs are, how you can mint them, and so there's a lot of educational stuff on there. Like I said, Clubhouse is another resource for artists to meet each other. There's a lot of collaboration going on. Artists from different parts of the world who never would have met before are now creating art together. And a lot of musicians are also coming into the space and need artists to make a visual for their music so they can make a movie file. And so that's a lot of collaboration that's happening. So that's kind of more of the what is an NFT, what it's doing for, and what it's doing for the community. I mean, so many people are coming online. I think really what happened was when the whole story broke about people making $69 million, people are like, what is an NFT? I have to get in on this, you know? And that's what happened to me. And then I started researching it. Well, I'm an artist, and how do I get in? And I did a lot of homework and got in on these groups on Clubhouse. And basically, once you put your work up, what's different about this in the traditional art world? Well, first of all, the artist kind of directly controls their narrative, their work, what they want to put up, the price of their work, and there are some fees involved with minting the work. There's gas fees and things like that. OpenSea then takes 2.5% of the sale because you only pay like a minting fee once. But the other thing that's new for the artist is this concept of royalties. So in the past, an artist might sell a work for, let's say, $10,000. And then on the secondary market, that person they sold it to could auction it off at Christie's for $100,000 and the artist would get zero. So now with NFTs, you can put a royalty in perpetuity. It's normally about 10%, that every time the work resells, the artist gets a royalty. So that's another new thing for the artist, which is great. And just getting a lot more eyeballs on your work. Also, you can create a lot of multiples. Like in the past, you would make prints, and let's say you'd make an edition of 100. You can do that also, and make it a lower price because there's more of them. So there's this concept of scarcity. So if it's a one of one, it's worth a lot more. And there are a lot of collectors following the space. I think it takes time they want to see, like with a traditional artist, who's going to have longevity. So who's going to be in this game? Who's not just trying it out for fun, just throwing up some work, and then they're going to move on to something else in a few months. So I think the artist also needs to stick to the long game to prove themselves. And then once the artist sees this person, and also like myself, if you go to my website, you see I have a history of showing in galleries. I have a history of sales. So this is like a legitimate, because there are a lot of young people who, and I'm not putting down if you don't have a traditional art background that you can't be an artist, because a lot of graffiti artists and that type of thing are making it in the space. But eventually, I think now it's so new, so much stuff is being thrown up. Eventually, it'll kind of separate into who's going to really be staying around and, who's got sticking power.
Absolutely. I mean,
I don't know, I forgot.
yeah, absolutely. I also want to add to one point actually, because in earlier in a traditional world, you will not able to sell your art piece for multiple owners. In this NFTs, it's a big advantage that your artwork can be sold to multiple people. Multiple ownership can be given along with that. So this is a great advantage. And as it comes the point, ArtSmiley is going a bit mile ahead and saying that okay, these investors who are putting in investment in the digital artwork, he can back to our traditional artwork and sell art prints using those digitals. So that can give more yield also. So so we are integrating our traditional platform with NFT platform so that they have a circular economy. So both the artists, the secondary sales are there, and the first-hand sales. So all people can benefit, including the investor himself. So yeah, there's the new development. Yeah.
And another point that I left out reminded me is this concept of crossover between physical art and the NFTs. Now, also one of the benefits I feel is like my physical work is very large. So to have it in a show, I've got to get a truck, I've got to get a team of people to hang the show. It's a big, with NFTs, it's like you click, it's up there, it's digital.
It's 9:45.
Somebody collects it and it's boom, it's in their wallet and they can look at it right away, they can enjoy it. And another thing about NFTs is this concept of an unlockable. So for example, on OpenSea, you could put a digital file, but then say, comes with this, when you purchase, you unlock something else, which is most people are doing as a physical work. So it could be a print of the piece. It could be, I have a piece up where you get some of these hexagons. It's a video of the piece, and then you purchase that video, you get the actual physical piece.
Yeah.
So that's another way that artists are using to sell physical work and kind of cross over. Also, the platforms are now opening up split payments, so that if you do a collaboration, you can automatically, when the collector buys it, the money gets divided between who are the artists that collaborated on it, which is something in the past. First of all, no, people weren't collaborating. It was kind of more of a selfish, elitist type of art world. And I think this whole pandemic has made it much more of a like, we don't know how long we're gonna live. Let's love each other. Let's support each other, and let's retweet each other's work and share and collaborate. Now, in any market, there's the people who are ahead and there's the people who are trying to come up. So when that person coming up gets to collaborate with somebody more established, and that person brings them up, they get more eyeballs, and it's a great thing. So with this collaboration, that's happening a lot, and people are bringing each other up just for the love of the community, and that's it's really a great thing. Oh,
yeah.
one other thing I want to add is something that I got into with another road that these NFTs are taking. Is there's a whole world of the metaverse, which are basically plots of land that you can buy on these different platforms. And a lot of people are turning those plots of land into galleries and showcasing artists' work or their own work. So one of them, for example, is called Crypto Voxels. And a guy that I met through Clubhouse wanted to just help the community rise up. He had his own gallery on one floor of his space, and he opened up a gallery for artists that happened to be in that room at that time. I'll give anybody a artwork on the wall in my gallery. And it was a very active room on Clubhouse at the time. There were like, I don't know, maybe 100 people in the room. And everybody had to, you create like a little virtual person of yourself and go into the gallery. And it was so packed, the website started slowing down. It didn't, and my work that he put up in that gallery sold in less than half a day. So it being the, it still goes back to that kind of who you know, but he's somebody who has a big following, and he gave this opportunity. And now I met some new collectors and a whole bunch of new artists for being, so that's the kind of vibe that's spiraling out of this whole thing.
I mean, it's an amazing, what you call journey for a lot of the artists. They're going through it and they're experiencing the collaborations. There's many ways, actually. New opportunities are everywhere right now. It's all about how much they open up themselves and go there. There are opportunities to make yourself, something out of it. And I would say that, a lot of the artists has to, leave their shy or, try to be behind and go and see what's happening. At least, you try to put yourself in this and try and understand, that gives them a new dimension, a new way of looking ahead and what's going to happen. It's many things, as you said, rightly, virtually you can do, there's nothing impossible, because the way we are handling things in the NFTs, and the reach is unlimited. So that's a great example, of people can access things and make it something happening. But like, this brings me one question also. Like, a lot of people are asking me, okay, they're expecting that as they created an account with NFT and put an artwork, is this will be sold? Like, because it's again, there is no guarantee of it. But as you said, knowing references of people, reaching out the right audience is very important, as always it is. OpenSea have thousands of works. Is every day they're selling thousands of works? I don't think so. But you need to market yourself in the right direction. Just share me that some of your experience, Karen, on this. How many artworks you've been sold, say, for example, in the space of last 6 months or so, and what are the approaches you're taking, or what are the steps you're taking to be more visible? One, you explained me a few minutes back, being into this, exhibition hall or virtual hall where you showcased in half day. But what other things you've been doing, just for our audience who are listening?
So I'm trying other platforms. So right now I have some work on OpenSea. I have a couple of pieces on Foundation, and I have some on something called screensaver.io or DAO, something like that. And then I have some other works on Nunk. I don't know how to say. I'm trying various platforms. I'm trying different pricing methods. So you can have an auction, you can have a buy now price, you can have something called the Dutch auction, where your price gets lower and lower until it reaches a bottom line that you set. So I'm basically trying everything to see what works. I think what's really selling the most is lower priced pieces that are in multiples. So that's my feeling. And I think there's become this genre, like this look of what people think an NFT is, which is kind of like a futuristic robotic woman floating through space. And I think that's kind of like people feel this anxiety, artists, like, well, my work has to look like that, and I have to learn 3D. But it's not true. I think a lot of still work is selling a lot. That's just a JPEG. It doesn't have to be an animation. And I think there's room for everybody and every style. And you really just have to find the right person that it resonates with. Like in the traditional art world, it's just finding your audience. So I think the more rooms you can get into on Clubhouse and talk about your work without sounding like, this is the new word, shilling, which means like overtly selling. So without sounding like that, but just sounding like you're contributing and you're talking. And by the way, if you want to take a look at my profile, I have links to my work, instead of like, this is what I just created. What do you guys think? And also I'm trying different outlets to enmesh myself in the art world. So for example, I just applied for a grant from the city of Los Angeles, and I got it. Yay.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So that's another thing. So I'm trying to build my resume that I'm in different areas. So I just curated this show about Stay Strong India. So that was my first, I didn't curate, I was a judge. I was a juror. So that was the first time doing that experience. I am looking into trying to curate a show here in Los Angeles. So that would be like a next step. I apply all the time for artist calls. I look daily on what I think my work really fits into. And I'm going to be having a piece at the University of Southern California Fisher Museum coming up in September in a group show. And then I also am having a solo show at UCLA also in the fall. So that's really exciting. And just trying to find different avenues. I've got a few art advisors helping reach out to collectors and to different galleries, showing up. I mean, it hasn't been possible, but even I showed up to online artist talks, and they'll see who registered and who stayed on. They'll signing up for different email lists and things. And now that things are opening up, going to art shows, art openings, and talking to the gallerists and the people, the more you can network, just the better, because you never know when somebody's gonna remember you, remember your work. I always have business cards on hand. I also created a, if I even have it here, when I went to, I was part of the Bitcoin conference in Miami that just happened, had satellite events. And I had my NFTs in a satellite event. It was 5 pop-up events in 5 different locations. So I made myself a kind of backstage pass, I don't know if you can see, type of thing.
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
And it has QR codes. So when I met people in person, I could say, scan this and see my work right away. So they get the face-to-face and the artwork, and hopefully we'll remember that. So I'm really trying to be creative in my marketing and just being a person of contribution to the space.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's the only way. You need to keep live and keep active as much as possible while doing the art. And you have people who is doing this engagement, with with carrying your works with, as you said, there's some advisors or galleries. Somebody has to be engaged. Also, this opening up some question in my thoughts actually. As you see now that things are opening up and physical world is slowly moving into action. How do you see that traditional way of selling is going to be still remain largely, or you think the lot of it will move to online space like NFTs? So what do you think of this transition?
I think people got accustomed to seeing work online during the pandemic. And I think the concept of the pricing being more transparent became more acceptable, whereas before, no prices on the walls in the galleries, and you almost felt like, well, they're sizing you up before they'll give you the price to see, and it felt like a little sneaky. Whereas now I feel like there's much more transparency, and I think the digital art is here to stay. I think galleries are definitely going to get in on the space because money is being made. Whether they're going to do that with their already stable of artists or reach out and just have some that are digital and some that are physical, that's kind of yet to be seen. I also think that, oh my God, I just lost my thought. I wanted to just go back to one other thing, is the last question you had, stretching yourself and getting into spaces like, I didn't know anything about NFTs. And so another thing that I just did was I volunteered to write an article for an NFT magazine that's coming out and interview another artist who is a traditional artist entering the NFT space. So I just wrote my first article. So that's the first time I did anything as an art writer. That's going back to the last question. What I think is definitely, I see on Clubhouse, the traditional gallerists are opening up rooms to talk about this and see where it's going. The ultimate place where these NFTs are going to live is a big question. So right now you can look at them on your phone, you can look at them on your computer, but a lot of companies are coming out with these ginormous screens that people who want to flex their art collection. So in the past, you'd have to invite someone up to your mansion to see your art collection.
Yeah.
Now you can have these screens, or you can post a like a virtual gallery. And so it's like another flex item for those type of people that want people to see what they're collecting, like their car collection. This is my art collection. And there are a lot of galleries now that are literally just going to be, you walk in, it's just screens. So that's part of what the pop-up shows that we did in Miami were rooms of screens. And then there's the idea of, do we rotate?
It's 10 o'clock.
20 different artists on a screen, and then people stand there and have to watch the whole loop, and the artist is like waiting for their piece to come up before the collector walks away. And then there was the challenge of, well, let's say we have the QR codes next to the screen. Well, which one is with which piece? And do you put the QR code right on the piece? And how many minutes should it be up for? So now there's a group putting together a show where each artist is going to have their own screen. And each artist will have 5 pieces rotating on that screen. And they'll have the barcode there to, you know, or their website where you can learn more about the art and reach the artist directly. So there's, because it's so new and there's so many creative people in the space, people are just, things are being born by the minute of what to do with this and how to grow it and reach the biggest audience and the correct, you know, or the best way to do it. So it's still
a lot of new space, you know, it's been unexperimented, I would say, or people are learning as they grow, you know, so this happening. So it's always, you know, early days, you know, that's what happens until somebody, you know, settles everything, or until we learn everything about this space. But yeah, keep going. It's exciting times, and you know, keep things are moving, and better to be watched, everything what's happening, and not to be, you know, behind for all this. As you said, in Dubai is also, we have you know, first digital galleries are there, you know, so they are happening, you know, very fast, you know. So yeah, all it is, we need to flow with this technology, and we need to learn and move on. Otherwise, you will be completely ignored from this space. Anyway, as is coming to wrap up the show, what is the one last message you want to give it to the, you know, to our community, especially, you know, those who are thinking whether I want to go into the NFTs or I stay where I'm a physical artist, it's not for me. You know, what do you think? What is your final message to them? And you know, so just want to know from your, you know, from your own experiences.
Well, first of all, it's interesting because physical spaces are never going to disappear. You know, we live in a physical world, and new buildings are always going to go up, and they're always going to need physical art. So if that's where you feel comfortable and that's your space, keep creating the art, and there'll be walls for it. If you are feeling like you want to test out the waters with the NFT thing, don't have expectations that it's going to sell in the first, you know, week or the first hour. You have to really be in it for the long game, because we're really just in the beginning, and we don't even know where this is going. So you have to have that kind of flexibility and open mind to be in the NFT, space if you want to do both. And then if you're a digital artist who really only makes digital work, a lot of people coming into the space are people who have been working for big animation houses. And so they never really were physical artists and so this is a big boom for them, and they're already technically savvy. And I think that whether you're just going to do physical, a combination of physical and NFT, or just digital, the main message is to do you. Don't try and copy anyone's style. Don't try and hop on any trend, because in the end, just like, in the traditional art where you're going to stand out because you're unique, not because you look like everyone else. And it will ring true to your audience that it's authentic. So that's my message. Be authentic.
It's a great, I think you gave a very good message to people and the audience who are listening. Thank you, Karen. Appreciated, your time, and thanks for coming all the way, joining from US. It's a great pleasure, and we will continue to chat on these things, and probably we'll be doing more shows with you, sharing that knowledge and experience to this part of the world. And great talking, with you, Karen. Appreciated.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
I think, yeah, it is my pleasure. Thank you very much, Karen.